The red recording light was already blinking when he said it. "You're no longer aligned with our future direction." For a heartbeat, no one in the conference room breathed. Then the cameras panned to me front row, still, hands folded while polite applause rippled through the glass walls. 23 years of service compressed into 12 words and a performance. I'm Marin Vega, 43, Senior Compliance Architect at Halden Systems. I've built the security spine of this company, every contract, every authorization, every cent accounted for. I know how long it takes a system to fail when arrogance overrides protocol. Damian Holt, our CEO, is about to learn that firsthand. He steps away from the podium, eyes gleaming with victory. "We thank Marin for her dedication," he says, performing for the boardroom feed. Halden is moving toward a more agile future. He has no idea that the network behind his precious merger is already reacting. A red indicator flashes briefly on the corner screen, barely noticeable, unless you know where to look. I designed it that way. A silent alert when unauthorized access is detected. Someone on his team tried to override the multi-layer approval sequence this morning, minutes before this meeting. The system flagged it, locked it, and sent the alert to me. I keep my eyes fixed on him as the applause fades. He doesn't see the tremor in his own infrastructure yet. Not the frozen transactions. Not the halted merger files worth $368 million waiting for the one signature he can't forge mine. He wanted humiliation on camera. He's going to get it, just not the kind he planned. "Thank you for your time," Damian concludes, stepping back to a round of forced smiles. I stand, straighten my jacket, and walk out through the glass doors. The air outside the conference room feels different, charged, electric, like a storm waiting for release. They filmed my fall. They'll soon live stream his. Because when you build a system that remembers every truth, it never forgets who lied first. The elevator doors closed behind me with a soft, metallic sigh, and for the first time in years, I had nowhere to go but down. My badge no longer worked, but my access key, my real one, wasn't made of plastic. It lived in the system I had spent the better part of 2 decades building. I drove home through the gray Boston drizzle, the kind that made the skyline look like a reflection, blurry, uncertain. The company laptop sat on the passenger seat, a symbol of everything I'd lost and everything I still controlled. That night, I powered it on. The Halden network login window appeared, familiar and sterile. Below the surface, the architecture pulsed quietly my design, my fingerprint. 4 layers, like nested safes. Layer 1, identity authentication, basic credentials. Layer 2, legal authority verifies every signatory's clearance. Layer 3, fiscal compliance matches each amount to its authorized budget. And Layer 4, my creation quantum encrypted verification that only my digital key could unlock. A personal safeguard I'd coded after my husband's medical records were once altered without consent. I swore I'd never let integrity be optional again. Every major contract Halden signed, every merger document, every high-value transfer passed through that framework. No approval could move forward without all 4 layers aligning perfectly. Damian liked to boast about innovation and trustless systems, but he never understood that the system wasn't trustless. It trusted the right person, and that person wasn't him. I checked the logs. At 9:02 a.m., 10 minutes before the meeting, someone had attempted to override Layer 4. The alert had triggered, locking the pipeline automatically. The pending merger with Horizon Capital was frozen mid-transfer. I leaned back, the glow of the screen reflecting off the window pane. The system remembered everything: timestamps, user credentials, location traces. It was more loyal than anyone I'd ever worked with. He could delete my profile from the company directory, but not from the architecture itself. Damian Holt had fired me on camera, and in doing so, he'd just cut the one line that could have saved him. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft hiss of rain against the window. I hung my blazer over the back of a chair and stared at the kitchen table, the place where every major decision of my life had been made. The table still bore a faint scratch from when Clara tried to carve her initials into it when she was 9. She's 16 now. Taller, sharper. The kind of teenager who can read emotions faster than you can hide them. I couldn't let her see this. Not yet. The clock read 8:47 p.m. I opened my laptop. Not to work this time, but to count. Severance none. Savings 6 months, maybe 7 if I canceled the gym I never used. The remaining hospital bills from Daniel's treatment still sat in a neat folder on the counter, each envelope thinner than the last, but never gone. He used to tell me that numbers were just stories waiting to be solved. Tonight, the story didn't add up. I checked the window again. Boston's skyline flickered with light through the mist. Somewhere out there, Damien Holt was probably celebrating, raising a glass to a merger he thought would define his legacy. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it until I saw the name beneath Lena Perez. Lena had interned under me 6 years ago, sharp, eager, someone who saw logic as a form of justice. We hadn't spoken since she left for a forensic audit firm in D.C. Her message was short. I saw the broadcast. Call me when you can. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. My reflection in the glass looked older than I remembered. Tired, but not defeated. I typed back, "Tomorrow morning." Thank you. Then I set the phone face down and exhaled. The apartment held its silence again. Outside, the rain eased, leaving behind that clean smell that follows a storm. I didn't know it yet, but the next morning's call would break that quiet in ways I couldn't have imagined. 3 days passed before the silence broke. I was sitting at the kitchen table, half awake, nursing cold coffee while Clara got ready for school. The city outside was wrapped in fog, the kind that swallows sound and turns everything slow. When the phone rang, I almost didn't move. The screen flashed Halden Systems' executive line. For a moment, I thought it was a mistake. Then I saw the name, Damien Holt. I let it ring once, twice. By the third ring, curiosity won. Marin. His voice came through clipped, impatient, but thinner than I remembered. We're having a little technical snag with the Horizon merger. The authorization layer seems to be locked. Probably just a configuration error. I'm sure you can help us clear it up. The audacity made me laugh. Soft and dry. You mean the layer you dismissed as redundant security silence? Then, it's just a formality. That phrase, so clean, so corporate, landed like a nail in wood. I pictured him standing in that glass office, his confidence cracking in real time. I don't work for Halden anymore, I said. Good luck with your formality. I hung up before he could reply. 5 minutes later, another call. This time from Janice McCowan, Halden's chief counsel. Her tone was smoother, but the tremor underneath betrayed her. Marin, this is just a routine verification. We're under a bit of time pressure. The transaction can't close until we get your digital signature. She paused, waiting for agreement that never came. I opened my encrypted dashboard instead. Log entries scrolled down the screen: failed attempts, mismatched credentials, unauthorized users pinging the verification chain. The system had done exactly what it was built to do. It remembered. Somewhere in their gleaming offices, the network had frozen every active document tied to the merger. The pipeline was locked, pending a single missing key. Mine. By the time the phone stopped buzzing, I was already typing a note to Lena. They tried to override it. The system caught them. The first crack had appeared, and it wasn't mine. By Friday morning, the story had already reached the business press. Halden Systems announces technical path to resume merger. The headline read, Damien looked smug in the photo beside it. Tie perfect, smile rehearsed. To anyone else, it was confidence. To me, it was desperation dressed as control. I sat by the window with my laptop open, watching rain streak down the glass as the live press conference played. Damien stood behind the same podium where he'd fired me, promising investors that the issue was purely procedural. Behind him, Janice nodded with the kind of conviction only panic can create. I opened my encrypted console. The dashboard pulsed faintly, each node representing a live process inside the verification framework. Then, suddenly, movement and external override command, inbound from Halden's internal servers. They were trying to go around me. The cursor blinked as the system traced the intrusion. I'd coded the failsafe years ago for one reason: to recognize tampering. Within seconds, the first alert flashed, then another. Unauthorized modification detected. Checksum mismatch. Integrity breach cascading lockdown initiated. I watched line after line of red text bloom across the interface. The system had switched to defensive mode, isolating every transaction linked to the $368 million merger. Every forged credential, every false digital signature was tagged and quarantined, rendered legally void. Then came the final line, calm, decisive. All derivative files invalidated. System integrity preserved. For a moment, the room was silent, except for the low hum of my computer fan. I imagined the chaos unfolding at Halden headquarters, attorneys shouting, IT scrambling. Damien realizing his shortcut had triggered a full corporate freeze. I didn't smile. Not exactly. But the tension in my chest eased. The framework I built had learned, just as I designed it to. It no longer needed my command to defend itself. By the time the news updated again, Halden merger faces technical delay. Pending audit. I closed the laptop and exhaled. The system had spoken in the only language it knew: proof. And proof, once awakened, never forgets. 2 days after the press conference collapsed into silence, I received a call that didn't sound like panic. The number was unfamiliar. Washington area code. I hesitated, then answered. Ms. Vega, this is Ethan Kwan, compliance officer at Horizon Capital. His tone was steady, deliberate, the voice of someone who measured words before using them. I know this is unexpected, but I wanted to reach out personally. I leaned against the counter, the city dusk bleeding through the blinds. Go ahead. He cleared his throat. We've been reviewing Halden's authorization network. Your architecture, specifically. Off the record, whoever built it understood both law and logic better than anyone we've seen. It's elegant. It had been a long time since anyone used that word about my work. He continued, without your authorization, the merger's dead in the water. Every compliance path routes back to your signature chain. Damien Holt's team can't move a single dollar without it. I said nothing. Let the truth hang there, clean and heavy. Ethan didn't fill the silence. That was new. Most people rushed to control it. Instead, he said quietly, between us, our board's losing patience. They're talking about a forensic audit. If that happens, the system you built will speak louder than any lawyer. Something inside me shifted, a quiet click. The sound of balance returning. For months, my name had been whispered with pity or erased altogether. Now it was being spoken with respect. And by the other side of the table, why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I've seen people take credit for work they didn't understand. He said, you deserve to know your system's protecting more than their money. It's protecting your name. When the call ended, I stood for a long time, listening to the hum of the refrigerator again. The same sound as before, but this time, it didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like the start of being seen. Lena arrived early on Sunday, coat still damp from the drizzle, laptop tucked under her arm. We hadn't seen each other in years, but when she stepped into my apartment, the formality vanished. She looked older, sharper, but the same clear, curious eyes that once asked too many questions in my old office. She set her computer on the table between us. I pulled the audit logs you mentioned, she said. There's more here than a simple authorization glitch. For the next 3 hours, we sifted through the data columns of figures, contract IDs, Timestamps? To anyone else, it might have looked like noise, but I'd lived inside this system long enough to hear its rhythm. Each anomaly had a pulse, a pattern. We traced payments routed through shell vendors companies that didn't exist 6 months ago. Others led offshore, cycling funds through consulting contracts signed by Holt himself. Some were backdated to align with old budgets, masked as R&D allocations. Each signature had cleared the first 3 layers perfectly, but every one of them had failed the 4th mine. Lena leaned closer. You realize this connects to the merger valuation. If we quantify these, we're looking at roughly $368 million in manipulated assets. The number didn't shock me. What did was the precision. Damien hadn't just stolen, he'd engineered theft into the workflow, using the same system I'd built to prevent it. We organized the evidence into a legal chain of custody file, encrypted hashes, signed metadata, timestamp verification, no copies outside secure drives, no loose ends. The kind of record that could walk into any courtroom and stand on its own. When we finished, the rain had stopped. The air through the window smelled metallic, like the city before dawn. Lena closed her laptop and looked at me. If this goes public, it's not just a scandal, it's criminal. I nodded, my hands steady on the keyboard. Then we do it right. No leaks, no shortcuts. The system had remembered. Now it was my turn to make sure the world did too. The official notice came on a Thursday morning, wrapped in corporate neutrality, emergency shareholder session attendance required. The date was set for Monday. The location, Halden Systems, Executive Hall, Boston. The same room, the same glass stage, the same red recording light that had once captured my humiliation. I read the memo twice, then opened a new message addressed to Halden's Independent Audit Committee. Attached was the encrypted package Lena and I had assembled, the chain of custody files. Every verified transaction, every time-stamped signature tied to Damien Holt's authorization credentials. I added a short note for review under Section 4.7 Financial Integrity Clause. No flourish, no accusation. Just facts. Before hitting send, I hesitated. This was no longer about vindication. It was evidence entering the world, untouchable once released. I entered the encryption key, watched the transfer complete, and exhaled. That afternoon, Lena confirmed receipt through a secure channel. They're reviewing everything, she said. The committee's chair wants you present for verification, if you're willing. I thought about that room, the polite applause, the hollow smiles. I thought about how easy it had been for Damien to erase me in front of them. And now, they'd have to listen. Monday arrived like a storm that had been building for weeks. Reporters gathered outside Halden's headquarters, microphones catching fragments of rumor compliance breach, frozen merger, missing authorization. Inside, executives moved in sharp lines, whispers trailing behind them. The security guard at the door recognized me. He didn't speak, just nodded once, eyes heavy with something close to apology. In the conference hall, rows of investors faced the stage. Cameras rolled again, but this time the air felt different. No performance, only waiting. The chair of the audit committee stood, voice steady. Ms. Vega, thank you for joining us. We'd like you to confirm the data integrity of your system. I rose from my seat, the same one I'd occupied the day I was dismissed. The lights felt just as bright, but for once, they didn't burn. They revealed. Damien stood at the podium again, the same spot where he'd ended my career on camera. His tone was calm, almost rehearsed. I want to assure our shareholders that Halden Systems remain secure. The recent interruption was the result of a routine software conflict, nothing more. Behind him, 2 massive screens displayed the company logo spinning in slow, confident motion, the illusion of control. The chair of the audit committee cleared his throat. Mr. Holt, before you continue, the committee has reviewed material evidence submitted through official compliance channels. We believe Ms. Marin Vega can clarify the matter. For a moment, Damien didn't move. His smile froze, muscles tight under the bright lights. Then he stepped aside. I walked to the podium, the sound of my heels echoing across the polished floor. The room was still, cameras fixed. I plugged in the secure drive Lena and I had prepared. The first screen flickered, then displayed a cascade of data timestamps, authorization paths, transaction IDs. These are the internal logs from Halden's verification framework, I said, my voice steady. Each layer documents a separate approval step. None of the following signatures passed final validation. The next screen lit up red. Rows of credentials glowed, each labeled forged, backdated, or invalid origin. One by one, the numbers aligned into a pattern: offshore transfers, shell accounts, and falsified budgets bearing Damien Holt's authorization key. A murmur rippled through the room. Someone gasped. The board members leaned forward, eyes wide. On the side screens, automated warnings blinked. Compliance breach. Active investigation required. Damien tried to speak, but the microphone caught the tremor in his voice. These are fabricated. The chair's reply was simple. The metadata verifies otherwise. Two agents in dark suits stood quietly at the back of the hall. Their timing was perfect. The vote took less than 5 minutes. By unanimous decision, Damien Holt was suspended pending criminal inquiry. When I stepped down from the podium, the room that once applauded my dismissal had gone completely silent. The only sound left was the faint hum of the cameras still recording. But this time, for the truth. 3 weeks later, the headlines had stopped using words like alleged. The evidence was overwhelming, the pattern undeniable. Damien Holt, once the face of Halden Systems, now faced federal charges for fraud and money laundering. His photo appeared on every financial site, eyes sunken, posture deflated. The man who fired me on camera was learning what exposure truly meant. By then, my world had grown quieter. I'd signed a consulting agreement with Horizon Capital, the firm that once sat across the table from Halden. The contract offered full autonomy, triple my old salary, and a clause that gave me ownership of my future work. For the first time in years, every decision, every line of code was mine again. The first thing I did with the new income was simple pay off the last of Daniel's hospital bills. The second was painting the apartment. Clara chose the colors light gray for the walls, soft blue for the kitchen. She said it made the place feel bigger, like it could breathe again. Some nights, I still caught her watching me with quiet curiosity, as if trying to reconcile the mother who kept calm under fire with the one now humming softly while washing dishes. She never asked for the full story, but she knew enough. I'd made sure she'd never inherit my silence. On a Tuesday morning, as sunlight spilled through the window, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar voicemail. I didn't need to press play to know who it was. The subject line, please. 1 minute. I deleted it without listening. Outside, Boston was waking. Delivery trucks rumbled down the street, the city's rhythm steady again. I stepped onto the small balcony, coffee warming my hands. The laptop on the table glowed faintly, its reflection caught in the morning light. For years, I had built systems to protect others from corruption. Now, standing there, I finally understood what I'd built for myself. Peace that couldn't be revoked.